The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Like most things that change the course of human history, it came without warning or fanfare. Dr. Sarah Chen was monitoring deep space signals at the Arecibo Array when the transmission cut through the usual cosmic static with impossible clarity. To the governing bodies of Earth, the Galactic Consortium acknowledges your achievement of faster-than-light travel. Your presence is required at the central nexus for evaluation and integration. Within hours, the message had been authenticated and verified by every major space agency on Earth. Humanity wasn't alone. And more importantly, we weren't even close to being first. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session, selecting Dr. Chen and Admiral James Rodriguez as humanity's representatives. Their ship, the UES Discovery, was Earth's newest and most advanced vessel, though by the standards they were about to encounter, it might as well have been a wooden sailing ship. The central nexus hung in space like a metallic spider web, streams of ships flowing through its crystalline corridors. The Discovery approached cautiously, its crew trying to maintain their composure as vessels of impossible configurations darted past them with casual grace. Inside the Grand Chamber, representatives from 1,000 worlds watched with varying degrees of interest as the humans were presented before the consortium's High Council. The council members themselves were a striking sight. Beings of crystalline structure, energy forms contained in elaborate mechanical shells, and entities that seemed to defy conventional physics. Your species has achieved the minimum requirements for acknowledgement, announced first speaker Cthera, their words translated by advanced systems that made them sound like wind through crystal. However, your technological level places you in Category 4, a developing civilization. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. We are honored to be acknowledged by the consortium. Earth looks forward to peaceful exchange and mutual growth. The laughter that rippled through the chamber was not unkind, but it carried an edge of superiority that made Admiral Rodriguez's hand tighten on his ceremonial sword. Growth is precisely what we're here to discuss, Cthera continued. The consortium maintains order through a carefully balanced system of resource management. Category 4 civilizations are required to contribute 40% of their planetary resources to support more advanced members. This is non-negotiable. The silence that followed was deafening. Chen's face remained carefully neutral, but Rodriguez felt his blood run cold. 40% of Earth's resources would cripple their civilization. Additionally, another council member added, their form shifting like mercury, all technological developments must be submitted for review and potential redistribution. This ensures proper technological growth paths are maintained. Chen exchanged a quick glance with Rodriguez. They had expected first contact to be challenging, but this wasn't diplomacy. It was imperialism dressed in bureaucratic clothing. We'll need time to consult with our government, Chen replied carefully. This is a significant commitment you're asking of our world. You have 30 Earth days, Cthera declared. Be advised that refusal is not considered a viable option. The consortium maintains peace through compliance. As they returned to the Discovery, Chen and Rodriguez walked in silence until they reached the safety of their quarters. Only then did Chen allow her diplomatic mask to slip. Did you notice? She asked quietly. Rodriguez nodded. Their technology is advanced, but their security was minimal. They weren't scanning us. They didn't even seem to consider it necessary. And their ships, Chen continued, all that elegant design, but I didn't see a single point defense system. No redundancy, no battle damage repair capabilities. They've never had to fight a prolonged war, Rodriguez mused. They've never faced an enemy that refused to give up. Chen turned to the window, watching the gleaming ships of the consortium dance through space. They think they're giving us 30 days to accept the inevitable. Instead, Rodriguez smiled grimly. They've given us 30 days to prepare. As the Discovery began its journey home, its computers quietly compiled everything they'd learned about consortium technology. Earth would have choices to make, and soon. But humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, had clawed its way up from the mud to reach the stars. The consortium thought they were dealing with just another primitive species that would bow to superior technology and overwhelming odds. They were about to learn why humanity's history books were filled with stories of empires that had made the same mistake. The vast underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity. 3 weeks had passed since the Discovery's return, and humanity had not been idle. In the main strategic command center, holographic displays showed a constant stream of data as Earth prepared for what might be its greatest challenge. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Council, his uniform crisp despite having worked for 36 hours straight. Our analysis of consortium technology has revealed something fascinating, he began, gesturing to the holographic display. They've optimized everything for efficiency and elegance, but at the cost of durability. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her usual lab coat replaced by a military uniform, with the newly formed Earth Defense Force insignia. Their ships are like thoroughbred racehorses, beautiful, fast, and incredibly specialized. But they've never had to adapt to survive on a death world like Earth. They've never needed to. The hologram shifted to show comparative analyses. Their hulls are lightweight composites designed for speed and maneuverability. Their weapons are energy-based, precise, and powerful, but they require perfect conditions to function. They have no concept of redundant systems or battlefield repairs. And their greatest weakness, Rodriguez asked rhetorically, they don't understand human psychology. They think we'll calculate the odds and submit. President Maria Santos leaned forward. How are our preparations proceeding? Chen activated another display. We've modified our existing ship designs rather than trying to copy theirs. The consortium expects us to attempt to replicate their technology. It's what every other species has done. Instead, we're going in the opposite direction. The hologram showed Earth's new vessels, brutalist shapes that would have made any consortium engineer recoil in horror. Thick armor, multiple redundant systems, and most importantly, weapons that no advanced civilization would even think to defend against. They've forgotten about kinetic energy, Rodriguez explained. Their shields are designed to disperse energy weapons, but a tungsten rod accelerated to relativistic speeds. That's just primitive physics to them. They don't even bother defending against it. What about their numerical superiority? Someone asked. Chen smiled. That's where their arrogance works in our favor. Their ships are scattered across thousands of worlds, maintaining their resource collection network. They haven't concentrated their forces since the last species tried to resist, 300 years ago. The room grew quiet as tactical displays showed the distribution of consortium forces. Their empire was vast, but spread thin, like a spider web made of golden threads. Beautiful, intricate, and deceptively fragile. We've also discovered something about their command structure, Rodriguez continued. They have no concept of guerrilla warfare or asymmetric combat. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming technological superiority and the assumption that any rational species will surrender rather than face destruction. President Santos stood, her face grave. And our chances? If we submit, Chen replied, Earth becomes nothing more than a resource farm for the consortium. We'll lose nearly half our resources, and any technological advancement will be controlled by them. We'll effectively become a colony world. And if we fight, Rodriguez's face hardened. We'll be outnumbered and outgunned, but we'll be fighting with weapons they don't understand, using tactics they've never encountered, with a level of determination they can't comprehend. They think war is about superior technology. We know it's about the will to endure. The next few hours were filled with detailed presentations. Earth's factories had been running at full capacity, producing ships that would make any consortium engineer laugh, until they had to face them in combat. Special forces had been training in zero-gravity warfare, preparing for tactics that no alien military had ever encountered. Scientists had been working around the clock, developing countermeasures that deliberately avoided copying consortium technology. As the meeting concluded, President Santos made one final announcement. The consortium gave us 30 days to submit to their demands. In 24 hours, we'll give them our answer. Humanity didn't climb to the top of the food chain on Earth by submitting to superior forces. We did it by adapting, by turning our weaknesses into strengths, and by never, ever giving up. In orbit, Earth's new fleet gathered in the shadow of the moon, hidden from casual observation. The ships were ugly by consortium standards, blocky, over-engineered, and built to take punishment that no civilized species would ever consider necessary. They were crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives to face impossible odds, who came from a lineage of survivors who had outlasted everything their harsh world had thrown at them. The consortium was about to learn that humanity's primitive nature was not a weakness to be corrected, but a strength they had never anticipated. The galaxy was about to change, and the careful order maintained for thousands of years was about to meet something it had never encountered before, a species that refused to bow to the inevitable. First speaker, Cthulhu's crystalline form, shimmered with barely contained rage as they read Earth's response. The message was brief, delivered by a single automated probe. The Earth Defense Force respectfully declines the consortium's terms and proposes alternative arrangements for peaceful cooperation. The Grand Chamber erupted in chaos. In 10,000 years, no Category 4 civilization had ever refused the consortium's demands. It was unprecedented, irrational, and by all standard metrics, impossible. Deploy the compliance fleet, Thera ordered, their harmonics sharp with irritation. Standard protocol. Demonstrate overwhelming force. Accept their surrender. Install provisional governance. In high orbit around Earth, the consortium's ships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 100 vessels of gleaming metal and crystalline energy fields, each one a masterpiece of advanced engineering. Their sensors swept the planet, expecting to find a primitive defense force trembling in fear. Instead, they found nothing. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EDF Thermopylae, hidden in the shadow of the moon along with the rest of Earth's fleet. The ship's systems were running silent, using technology that the consortium would consider hopelessly outdated, and therefore hadn't bothered to scan for. They're deploying in standard parade formation, his tactical officer reported, barely containing a grin. No point defense systems active. Minimal shields. They're not even running active scans. Rodriguez nodded to Dr. Chen, who had insisted on being present for humanity's first real combat with an alien force. Would you like to deliver our counter-proposal? Chen's finger hovered over the communication panel. Considering they didn't even bother to look behind the moon, I think they need a lesson in human thoroughness. The signal went out, not in the elegant encrypted formats the consortium used, but in simple, primitive radio waves that their advanced systems almost ignored as background noise. Attention consortium fleet. You are in violation of Earth's sovereign space. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. The consortium commander's response was predictably condescending. Your primitive vessels are no match for our technology. Submit now, and we will be lenient. 20 seconds, Chen replied calmly. This is your final warning. We have 100 ships to your... The alien commander paused, finally noticing something odd about their scans. 10 seconds, Chen continued. We suggest you raise your shields. The consortium commander laughed, a sound that would be remembered in military academies for centuries to come as one of the greatest examples of fatal overconfidence in military history. Time's up, Chen said. Admiral. Rodriguez gave the order. All ships, execute Operation Slingshot. What happened next would rewrite the consortium's military doctrine. From behind the moon came not the dozens of ships they had expected, but hundreds. They weren't the sleek, advanced vessels the consortium was used to facing, either. They were brutal, utilitarian craft that looked like they had been designed by a species that expected to be hit, and hit hard. But it wasn't the number or appearance of Earth's ships that changed everything. It was their tactics. The first volley wasn't energy weapons or exotic particles. It was thousands of kinetic kill vehicles, Essentially sophisticated rocks accelerated to relativistic speeds. The consortium's elegant shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, might as well have been tissue paper. 20 consortium ships were destroyed in the first second of combat. Their commanders, trained in the elegant dance of energy weapon warfare, had never encountered an enemy that would use such primitive weapons. They had no protocols for this type of attack. All ships implement dispersal pattern Delta, Rodriguez commanded. Earth's fleet broke formation in what would have appeared to be chaos to any consortium tactician. But there was method in the madness. They were executing maneuvers practiced for months, designed specifically to counter the consortium's known tactics. The consortium commander, following 10,000 years of military doctrine, attempted to form their remaining ships into a standard response formation. It was exactly what Earth's forces had expected. The second wave of kinetic weapons caught them in mid-maneuver. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "they're attempting to return fire." Energy beams lanced out from the surviving consortium vessels, beautiful and deadly. But Earth's ships, their hulls deliberately designed with ablative armor and angular surfaces, absorbed or deflected much of the damage. Consortium vessels attempting to call for reinforcements, communications reported. Chen smiled grimly. They're about to learn another lesson about human preparation. Across the solar system, carefully positioned jammers activated, using technology so primitive that the consortium's advanced communications systems had no defense against it. The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was over, the greatest compliance fleet in the sector had been reduced to debris, defeated by weapons and tactics they had considered obsolete for millennia. In the Grand Chamber, the news of the fleet's destruction was met with stunned silence. It was impossible. It was irrational. It was a complete violation of how warfare was supposed to work. Cthera's crystalline form vibrated with frequencies that hadn't been heard in the chamber for thousands of years, frequencies of fear. Because the humans hadn't just destroyed a fleet, they had done something far worse. They had demonstrated that the consortium's entire understanding of warfare, technology, and species development was fundamentally flawed. And they weren't done yet. As the debris of the consortium fleet cooled in Earth's orbit, hundreds of human vessels were already jumping to light speed, heading for carefully chosen targets throughout consortium space. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity didn't just fight wars. They revolutionized them. The consortium's Central Defense Council had been in emergency session for what felt like an eternity. Holographic displays showed a galaxy in chaos as reports flooded in from every sector. Human ships weren't just attacking military targets. They were systematically dismantling the entire structure of consortium power. "They're insane," declared Council Member Zix, their energy form flickering with distress. "They're attacking Category 1 worlds, resource collection points, and command centers simultaneously. There's no logic to their strategy." But Admiral Rodriguez, watching the same patterns from the EDF Thermopyla's command center, saw the logic clearly. "Status report on Operation Watershed," he commanded. "Sir, Phase 1 is proceeding ahead of schedule," his tactical officer responded. 87% of targeted resource collection centers have been neutralized. Consortium forces are attempting to respond, but they're spreading themselves thin, trying to protect everything at once. Dr. Chen, who had proven invaluable in predicting consortium responses, nodded in satisfaction. "They still don't understand. They think we're trying to win battles. We're actually dismantling their entire economic system." The human strategy was elegantly simple. The consortium's power was built on extracting resources from lower-tier civilizations. Without that constant flow of resources, their elaborate technology began to falter. Their ships required exotic materials for maintenance. Their energy weapons needed rare elements to function. But human vessels, deliberately designed with primitive materials and systems, could operate almost indefinitely with basic resources. They didn't need the complex supply chains that the consortium relied upon. "New consortium response patterns detected," announced the sensor officer. They're attempting to adapt their tactics. On the main display, consortium ships were finally abandoning their traditional formations, trying to mirror the unpredictable movement patterns of human vessels. But it was like watching master fencers try to learn street fighting. They understood the concept, but centuries of ingrained training worked against them. They're learning, Chen observed, but not fast enough. How are the Category 3 and 4 civilizations responding? The answer was exactly what they had hoped for. As word spread of humanity's successful resistance, other subjugated species began their own uprisings, not with advanced technology or elegant weapons, but with the same primitive tactics that humanity had proven effective. In the consortium's grand chamber, first speaker Cthera received an urgent message that made their crystalline form dim with horror. The Category 4 worlds, they're all refusing their resource quotas. They're citing the human precedent. The human precedent. Already, their resistance had been given a name, becoming a symbol that threatened to unravel millennia of carefully maintained order. But it was the next phase of humanity's plan that truly demonstrated why they were different. As consortium forces rushed to protect their core worlds, they discovered that humans had no interest in destroying them. Instead, Earth's ships were appearing at subjugated worlds throughout the galaxy, offering something the consortium had never considered: partnership. "We don't want to rule you," was humanity's message to every world they encountered. "We want to trade with you, learn from you, and grow together. The age of tribute is over." The response was overwhelming. Species that had paid tribute for generations suddenly saw another path. The consortium's perfect hierarchy began to crack not through force alone, but through the power of an idea. Admiral Rodriguez watched as another sector declared independence from consortium control. "How long until their economy reaches critical failure?" he'd asked. Chen consulted her data. Their system requires constant resource input to maintain their technology level. Without the tribute from lower-tier worlds, I'd estimate 2 weeks before they have to start shutting down non-essential systems. Rodriguez nodded. And their military response capability, already degraded by 60%. Their ships require materials they can no longer easily acquire. More importantly, their crews are starting to question doctrines that have failed them repeatedly. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. "Send word to all fleet elements. Begin Phase 3. Across the galaxy, human ships began broadcasting a message to every consortium world. "We are preparing to approach the core systems. We do not seek your destruction. We seek to negotiate a new future, one where all species can develop according to their own paths." In the Grand Chamber, the message caused chaos. Some council members demanded immediate surrender. Others called for using doomsday weapons that would destroy their own worlds rather than submit. But Cthera, watching the humans' methodical dismantling of everything they had built, finally understood what made them different. The consortium had built an empire on the assumption that advanced technology and elegant solutions were the pinnacle of civilization. Humanity had proven that true strength lay not in having the most advanced technology, but in having the will and adaptability to use whatever tools were available to achieve victory. They had demonstrated that determination and ingenuity could overcome any technological gap. As the human fleet approached the core systems, the galaxy held its breath. The consortium's perfect order had been shattered not by a superior force, but by a species that had simply refused to play by their rules. The age of the consortium was ending. What would replace it remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: humanity had earned its place among the stars not through submission, but by proving that sometimes the most primitive solution was the most effective one. The Grand Chamber looked very different now. Where once thousands of representatives had sat in rigid hierarchical tiers, now they gathered in a circle of equals. At the center stood humans and consortium leaders, preparing to sign what would become known as the Galactic Concordat. Admiral Rodriguez, his uniform bearing the scars of 3 months of conflict, stood beside Dr. Chen as first speaker. Cthera approached the ceremonial table. The crystalline being's form had changed, becoming less rigid, more adaptive, a physical manifestation of the changes sweeping through consortium society. Before we proceed, Cathera's harmonics resonated with new frequencies of humility. I must ask, you had the power to destroy us completely. Why didn't you? Chen stepped forward, her diplomatic training serving her well in this historic moment. Because destruction was never our goal. We fought not to conquer, but to change a system that stifled growth and innovation. The gathered representatives murmured in agreement. The past 3 months had revealed surprising truths. As the consortium's resource extraction system collapsed, many worlds had discovered they were far more capable than they had been led to believe. Without the burden of tribute, technological innovation had flourished in unexpected ways. We've learned much from you, Rodriguez added, addressing the entire chamber. Your technology is truly remarkable. But you've learned from us as well, haven't you? Cathera's form shimmered in acknowledgement. The consortium had indeed learned harsh but valuable lessons. They had discovered that their technological superiority had bred complacency, that their elegant solutions had blinded them to simpler, more effective approaches. The terms of the Concordat were revolutionary yet simple. No more forced tribute, no more technological suppression, no more artificial hierarchies. Instead, a new system of voluntary cooperation and mutual defense would unite the galaxy's species. There will be those who resist these changes, warned another council member, their energy form flickering with concern. Of course, Chen agreed. Change is never easy, but we've prepared for that too. She gestured to the holographic display showing the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, a joint fleet combining human ingenuity with consortium technology. The ships were beautiful yet practical, elegant yet sturdy, incorporating the best aspects of both approaches to engineering. But the greatest change, Rodriguez continued, isn't in our ships or weapons. It's in how we view each other. The consortium thought they were maintaining order through control. We've shown that true stability comes from cooperation and mutual respect. As if to emphasize his point, representatives from formerly subjugated worlds were already forming working groups, sharing innovations that had been suppressed under the old system. Species that had been relegated to resource extraction were revealing remarkable advances in sustainable technology. Worlds that had been deemed primitive were demonstrating unique solutions to problems that had plagued even the most advanced civilizations. Thera raised their crystalline appendage, signing the Concordat with a flourish of light. To think, they mused, that our greatest advance would come from what we considered our greatest defeat. Chen smiled. That's the thing about humans. We don't believe in no-win scenarios. We believe in changing the rules when they no longer serve their purpose. As the other representatives came forward to sign, a new message was being broadcast across the galaxy. The age of tribute is over. The age of cooperation begins. The changes wouldn't be easy. Centuries of hierarchical thinking wouldn't disappear overnight. But already, the galaxy was transforming. Trade routes were being re-established based on mutual benefit rather than coercion. Scientific exchanges were flourishing as species shared knowledge freely. The rigid boundaries between technological tiers were dissolving as civilizations learned from each other. In Earth's orbit, a new structure was taking shape. The Galactic Cooperation Center, designed to facilitate exchange between all species. Its architecture was a testament to the new philosophy, combining consortium elegance with human practicality. Admiral Rodriguez stood at a viewport, watching ships of all designs coming and going. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we first entered the Grand Chamber? He asked Chen. She shook her head. I hoped we could win our freedom. I never dreamed we'd help free the galaxy. That's humanity's greatest strength, Rodriguez reflected. We don't just overcome challenges, we transform them into opportunities for everyone. As the last signatures were added to the Concordat, a new era truly began. The galaxy had learned that true civilization wasn't about technological superiority or elegant solutions. It was about the wisdom to learn from each other, the strength to change when needed, and the courage to stand up for what was right. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars. It had helped create a new definition of what it meant to be advanced. The future was uncertain, but it was free, and that made all the difference.